Thank you for tuning in to Tom Photo Channel. I'm Tom, and today I've come to a beautiful location to talk about a nice and popular camera, Nikon D3400. It's early September and it's early morning, so it's kind of chilly. Yet I think it's more fun to look at the camera closer to what I'd use it for. So let us start with the most obvious and visible, the looks and feel. I've had entry-level Nikon DSLRs before. I started out with a Nikon D40. I then owned a Nikon D3300 for a while. And now here's a D3400. And to tell you the truth, the camera still looks the same as its predecessors did about 10 years ago. If anything, it's gotten a bit smaller and definitely lighter. It's a small camera in the DSLR world, one of the smallest you can get. At the same time, it feels big compared to your typical hybrid camera. What's really funny is how light it is for its size. It feels like it's full of air. And since it has a plastic body, it kind of feels like a toy camera. But don't laugh. I mean it in the best way. Although plastic isn't a very durable material, this plastic is very high quality. It's the scratch-resistant type that does not break easily at all. So I'd say that its plastic feels trustworthy. I especially like the grab of the camera. It is very deep and comfortable. You're not likely to drop this camera. It is so nice to hold it and make sudden movements with it as the situation demands. The buttons are all logical and nice. However, I've seen people wear off the markings from the buttons if they use the camera for a long time. The D3400 has a dark shutter release button, not silver. So this is how you know that it's not a D3300. The lens is really light too, all plastic again. Its build quality is just a bit less assuring than that of the camera body. It has a locking button, so you have to press it and turn the lens to the start position before the camera wakes up. The on-off button alone is not doing it. Also, the menu is not fully accessible until you have turned the lens. I'm not sure how much I like all this. For me, it's a mixed bag. The 3400 kit ships with this lens, and a new feature is that it does not have a dedicated switch to manual focusing anymore. It also does not have a switch to turn on and off the nice image stabilization that it has. All these functions are now controlled from the camera body. Compared to the D3300, this seems like a step backwards actually. Or maybe this is just me, the physical button lover. The lens is also better in some way. It seems to be a tad sharper than the previous one. Also, it has a smoother motor that is incredibly quiet. This is relevant when taking video. The lens takes wonderful and sharp images for this price range, and maybe a slight improvement over what used to be in front of this line of cameras before. And I also invite you to check out my video on the sharpness of this lens that I intend to publish on my Tom Photo channel very soon. So when you turn on the camera, like this, and you turn the lens, you can enter the menu. I like the menu as it's really simple. You can have relatively small number of options, just the basics. And I think this is what the novice users will no doubt like. This camera is not going to overwhelm you. Nikon has nice, good logic in how it organizes menu items too. From the menu, you get to choose the image quality and if you want to shoot RAW file. For JPEG users, you have some nice color schemes to choose from. You have something for portraits and something for vivid nature shots, etc. What I like a lot is the active D-light. This is kind of like HDR that lets you record better detail, better shadow and highlight detail. If you are a new user, just turn this feature on. It is likely to make your JPEG to look much better. The image quality of JPEGs is very nice, I think. At times, I like to sharpen the images a bit in post-processing, but this is easily doable with Nikon JPEGs. The JPEGs tend to look more bluish and cold compared to, let's say, Fujifilm. But some people like it very much because the images may look more realistic this way. Some may say they should pack more impact, but for punchy nature shot, use Vivid. Don't use Vivid for people's faces though. As far as overall image quality, I think it is well above average for this price point. This is the best reason to buy this camera. The RAW files are very usable too. However, compared to my Fujifilm X-T30 for example, it seems to have a bit less dynamic range. But these cameras are not in the same price category or league, however. It seems to me that the RAW files are really great for getting more detail out of shadows and getting rid of the shadows. However, for example, the Fuji files are better for bringing back the highlight detail. This camera is very easy to use if you do basic things. However, you have to make changes in the menu for advanced settings, and this is a bit clumsy. I especially miss a dedicated exposure compensation button that I have to be able to access at a moment's notice. So that would ideally be around here. But here you don't have that. You have to press a small button and turn the dial at the same time. And then you have to look at the screen or viewfinder to see which way it turns and if it is what you want. I'd like to just turn a knob and get this effect immediately. Although it's September, I guess the birds are back, so that's always a fun thing to have. But talking about this camera a little more, as the DSLRs are struggling more and more to justify their existence next to hybrid cameras, they have to invent new ways to compete with hybrids. Nikon has a live view. If you press the live view button, it essentially becomes a hybrid camera, and I'm going to show you the live view button. It's right there. So let's go ahead and press this live view. And now you see how it essentially became kind of like a hybrid camera. So now you only have to look at the screen to take pictures. You also shoot video via this live view. In live view, the mirror turns out of the way. If you want to take pictures without the mirror shake, you can use live view as well. Having live view on this camera is like having automatic gearbox on a stick shift car though. But I guess you have to have this system if you want to sell a camera these days. And I'm definitely not saying that live view is not a nice thing to have. It would be very clumsy without live view, and shooting video would be incredibly difficult, I think. So this is all great. It is important to understand that this camera has no image stabilization. You need to have this in the lens. Luckily, the kit lens has that. Also, the body is so small that it doesn't have a motor to drive the lens. Again, your kit lens has this motor. The video is only high definition at 30 frames per second max. However, coupled with a wonderfully silent and smooth lens, this may seem like a pretty good setup for video. Also, you can refocus easily during the video by selecting a new region on the screen using the 4-way pad and then pressing the button halfway. Too bad it has no touchscreen, so that you wouldn't have to make these selections with the 4-way pad. Also, the screen is not tilting, unfortunately. However, there are bigger flaws with video. The video is not detailed enough for my taste and dynamic range is very compressed. I would not rate it better than just okay. It will work for casual vacation videos, but not professional style work. What's really awful though, and I'm not going to be polite here for a second if you don't mind, is the sound from the built-in microphone. It sounds like someone's calling you from the moon using a 1960s telephone. I wish they didn't put the microphone in there at all. And to top it off, they have removed the external microphone port compared to the previous model. So you're screwed. So you would typically have a microphone port there, but not anymore. So don't use this camera for video. Let me switch over to Nikon D3400 for a second so you can appreciate what I'm talking about. I'm now on Nikon D3400 and I'm directly over the camera while talking. I'm really close to it. It doesn't sound okay, as you can probably witness. With just a tiny bit of wind, you would most likely hear wind noise and no talk at all. Let's briefly talk about connectivity. As you can see, currently the camera is connected to the tree, but connectivity wise the camera is a big step forward. It has a low consumption Bluetooth for convenient connectivity. Many people should like that, and I salute Nikon for this. This is very nice indeed. What are some of the things that are missing on this camera? I already mentioned the lack of exposure compensation in the form of a large turnable button, but this is just an inconvenience. The lack of microphone port is a bigger issue. This fact alone makes the video half unusable on this camera. It is also missing the shaking sensor cleaning system. This is understandable, however, because Nikon needed to cut the price, and this seemed a good place to do it. Indeed, better do this than swap the wonderful sensor for a lower grade one, for example. And lastly, I'd mention the kind of weak flash. It's okay, in the sense that, at least you have a hot shoe for attaching an external flash. Another big question: should you buy this camera in 2021? If you are new to photography but want to be serious about it, and if you want to step up from smartphone camera and create exciting images, I very much advise this camera, especially if you value simplicity over complexity and good deal over pricey options. Also, get it if you want a dSLR but you want it small. It doesn't get any better than that. It's wonderful for traveling. Also, you may want to consider this as a backup camera if you have a higher end camera already available. Make no mistake, the image quality out of this camera is grade A. The sensor it has inside is wonderful. For me, it's always the sensor that matters. And Nikon really nailed it. Now don't get this camera if you want to shoot a lot of video or intend to use it with many different lenses. Don't get it if you want your package to be ultra small or ultra capable or weather resistant. Don't get it if you have a Nikon D3300, which some would say is actually a better camera, with a microphone port, additional lens buttons, etc. I would buy this camera, no problem. Heck, I already did, right? This is my camera, not a loaner. But given a choice, for the same price, I'd take a step back in time and get the D3300 instead. It will also save you some additional money. There on the log you'll see my beautiful Nikon camera. I praised this camera and I said some harsher words. I didn't really mean to be harsh. It happened because I compared it against the hypothetical best camera in the world. But we all know this doesn't exist. Nikon D3400 is a camera that gets the job done with head high and is just about as dependable as cameras get. Nikon cameras are rock solid. I like them. Thanks so much for tuning in to Tom Photo Channel. I had fun telling you about the camera. Have a nice day, and I hope to talk to you again soon.